Good afternoon, guys. Welcome back to the channel. So as I mentioned in my short the other day or yesterday, Matthias Gisel is now the Newcastle United manager. He's been confirmed, which is good. Positive news for the club. In this video, I'm going to speak about what I know of him, which is very little. I'm not going to lie. What I've learnt of him since he's taken over, and ultimately going forward, how the team might look under his management, what we can try and achieve going forward. I'm also going to speak about Hopkinson's comments that he made in his interview with George Colkin of The Athletic. Look at what he said, some of the things that he mentioned within that interview, what they might mean going forward, and my thoughts ultimately on the future and how I see this season going. So as I mentioned, Gisel confirmed, German, young, only 38, 1 year older than I am, which is scary. Managers starting to be around the same age as you means you're getting old. So yeah, there we go. Exciting, young, positive front foot football from what I've read and what I've looked at. Very much likes his teams to be on the front foot, quite offensive. Can be very direct as well. I've looked at a few videos where people have analysed sort of his style of play when he was at Al Ahly in the Saudi Pro League. Very direct, but also can build up play and can build up from the back. So it seems like he is quite flexible, which is a positive, because in my opinion, at points, Howe wasn't flexible at all. So that's on a plus side, I would say. The way his teams like to play, as I said, quite direct, quite narrow at times, I believe. He likes to play in this sort of 4-1-2-1-2 diamond midfield, basically a 4-4-2 diamond. So quite narrow in the midfield, using his wings backs as a way of creating width down the side of the pitch. Which begs the question, with our wingers at the club, possibly, are they going to have to try and adapt to potentially play a little narrower and play with the wing backs overlapping? Who knows? So your likes of Harvey Barnes, Alanga, Jacob Murphy, if he's still here next season. So we'll have to see how that plays out. His number 6 sort of drops in as a back three. So when he has possession, it's a bit of a back three. And like I say, then wing backs then can create the width up high up the pitch. So you've sort of got a 3-2-5. That makes sense, yeah. So your wing backs are really sort of pushing on. That 6 drops in. And that's the sort of attacking shape. He likes to win the ball back high up the pitch as well. He likes to press, which under Eddie Howe, these players should be used to. So again, that could be a good transition for the players. They've been used to that already. So going forward, what he's asking of them shouldn't be that much different to potentially what we had under Howe. So that's exciting and promising. New signings wise, the young kids coming in, he can coach them, he can mould them into what he wants and get them into sort of the version of what he needs them to be to fit his system and his style of play, which is, again, another positive. In the short term, is that going to help this season? Potentially not. As a lot of people have said, transition season this, transition season that. I've heard that word all over the place. So, yeah, this season is a transition. We'll see how he copes with the Premier League, how these young players cope with the Premier League. All the signings up to now have never played in the Premier League. They're all under the age of 24, a lot of them under the age of 20. So having the pressures of the Premier League and seeing how they deal with that will be interesting. But I think overall, from what I've seen and what I've heard, what I've read about him, is it a manager that when he first got named made the fan base go, oh wow, we're in business here. We're going somewhere. No, it probably wasn't. A lot of people said, Yaisel, who? And fair enough, because I'd never heard of him. And some journalists I know as well had not heard much of him. And these are journalists that have been in football, around football, and they still didn't know a lot about him. So it's not been that sort of exciting, instant, oh wow, this coach is going to come in, this manager is going to come in and do great things. However, the more I've read about him, the more I've watched videos on him, the more I've done a bit of research into him, I believe it's an exciting appointment. And if he develops how a lot of people around Europe say that he can as a coach, then he could lead us into this sort of next era of Newcastle United post-takeover. The Eddie Howe era has now gone. A trophy, some great players. We sent them on the way, wishing them the best of luck, bar one, who jumped ship last summer. But the less said about him, the better. So going forward, this season for me is about stamping his style of play onto this squad, developing these young players, bringing them on, bringing in the rest of this window, bringing in some leadership, a bit of sort of stability, calm, older heads that have that experience that can help these younger players on the way. And then I think really we can push on and we can look in maybe 2-3 seasons time when these younger players are developed, if they're reaching the potential, then possibly then we might be in a position where we can challenge again for Europe, possibly Champions League. But at the same time, I think we've got to be aware of what happened this window. And this brings me on to Hopkinson and his interview. And one of the key quotes from that interview, I say quote, I don't know it off the top of my head exactly, but he mentioned paying the credit card bill. And we're in this situation this summer because we overspent. There's no doubt about it. We overspent, we overreached. Yes, it brought success. 2 Champions League campaigns, a Carabao Cup final, a Carabao Cup win. Lots of positives in that time. However, we were spending like a club that is a regular Champions League club, and we are not. We are not. I, last season, was under the impression that we had to get European football. We had to. If we didn't, there was going to be repercussions, and these are them repercussions. Even if we'd have got Europa League, Europa Conference, I still don't believe that revenue gap from the Champions League down to them leagues would have been enough to be able to sustain the wage bill of the players that we had. Hence the reason Anthony Gordon left. Anthony Gordon was a done deal way before the window. I believe the club knew he was going to go. They were banking on him going. And that's why I believe Eddie Howe didn't play him at the end of last season. The club were like, look, we really need this sale. We need this sale to happen, or else we are going to be in deep, deep trouble with UEFA and possibly the Premier League. We need this deal to happen. It's going to balance our books. We cannot afford Anthony Gordon to get injured. Hence the reason he spent the last 9 games of the season, I believe. Don't quote me on it, can't remember. If you know, let me know in the comments. But he missed a big chunk of the games at the end of last season, and I believe that is because the club knew they had to balance the books. They had to make that sale to Barcelona to be able to continue without massively breaching them PSR limits or squad cost limits for UEFA. We got in that situation because we'd spent big, and it was great and it was a good 5 years. However, as I mentioned before I went on that rant, we need to look at this group now and we need to understand where we are in the context of the league, where we are in terms of revenues compared to our competitors, because we need to bridge that gap. Without bridging that gap, this Project 2030 malarkey is just never going to happen. And I've mentioned before, I think it's more like a 10 to 15 year plan. And we really need to be looking at executive level at that long-term vision of how we bridge that gap to the likes of Man City, Arsenal, even Tottenham, Manchester United, because we're nowhere near them at the minute. Absolutely nowhere near Chelsea as well. Even a team like Tottenham, who finished 17th, 2 seasons on the bounce, flirting with relegation, they can outspend us because the revenues are huge. Now, for me, there's one massive, massive drawback, being Newcastle United, and I honestly think that geographically we are in a bad location. An example of that is, and I absolutely love Newcastle, great city, great place. My parents still live there. I miss the place so much. I grew up there. However, when you're talking about global audiences and trying to build revenue, we could build a massive stadium like Tottenham Stadium. We could build it. Absolutely no problem. PAF can afford to build it. We can get funding in to build it. Whatever happens, we can do that. However, are we going to get Formula One karting experience built under our ground in Newcastle? I would argue not. Are we going to get the NFL coming to Newcastle? I would argue not. Are we going to get big, massive box office boxing matches happening at Newcastle? Again, I would argue not. Being in London for Tottenham is an absolute blessing because they can attract them big events. They can do it. I honestly believe that, and this is where the rules for me are absolutely ridiculous. The PSR rules, when it comes to revenue generated, it should be football revenue. It shouldn't be commercial revenue. Shouldn't be, my son's there in the background pulling faces. Thank you. Shouldn't be. Yes, you can. You can say hello. What do you think about Eddie Howe leaving?
I mean, I don't really think there was a reason for him to do it. Like he was a pretty decent manager, you know.
Fair one.
Like, I don't really find a valid reason of why they would do it.
What about Bruno?
Well, I mean, if Bruno wants to join Arsenal, then he can fuck off.
Right, go. Your mum will tell you off for that.
She will. I love
Right,
you.
love you too. So, as I mentioned, Tottenham's income and revenue from non-footballing activities should not be included for me in PSR. You shouldn't be disadvantaged as a football club on the pitch for activities off the pitch. I just do not agree with it. So, yeah, we are in a situation where we need a lot of work behind the scenes to try and close these gaps up. And Hopkinson, with these Newcastle 2.0 comments, and paying the credit card bill, understanding where we are. And he actually came out himself and spoke about the rules and said that he didn't believe they were fair, which I love. I love that from the club. The club were, at one point, the rules are the rules, we'll comply with the rules, we're here to abide by the rules, we won't break them. All right, don't break them, abide by them, but you can still disagree with them. And they didn't. However, now they have. They've clearly come out and said, we don't agree with these rules, which I love. I'm hoping that a few new players come through the door. Hopkinson, in his comments, obviously spoke about being smarter in the transfer window. And I hope we see that. I think we're going to look at younger players, but I do, as I mentioned before, feel that we need a little bit of experience. We need some older heads that have got Premier League knowledge and experience and know-how to sort of guide them younger players through. I mean, in our squad, we've got Joe Linton, Dan Burn, if Joe Linton stays. Willock has been around a while now. Jacob Murphy, although technically not the best player in the world, he's got a lot of Premier League experience. Fabian Schär. So we do have players sprinkled in that squad that have got a lot of Premier League experience. Johan Wissa is another one. All right, last season his performances weren't great, but he's got that experience. So we still do have some solid Premier League experience in the squad. But I do feel that starting 11, especially that midfield, needs a little bit more. And I think we'll see that. I think wing-back, we'll see a couple of young signings come in just to sort of be there as backup to Hall and Tino Livramento. Because they, again, without Champions League football, we're not going to have as many games this season. But they will need backup at some point for a rest, rotation, any sort of injuries, even if it's just out for a few weeks. We do need covering them full-back positions. And as I mentioned, under Geisler, if he plays that sort of narrow 4-1-2-1-2, the wing-backs have got a lot of work to do and a lot of running to do. So there'll be a lot asked of them wing-backs if we are playing that system. And I think even under a more traditional 4-3-3, they'll still have that responsibility to try and get forward and help and assist in the attack. So yeah, the wing backs will be key, I think, this season under Geisel, whatever system we play, and we'll be asking a lot of them. So having backup there is key. Hopkinson, overall, I think the interview was needed. I think the fan base needed to understand where the club were coming from, what the plans were, what the ideas were. And I think it overall is a good interview. He's come out and spoken and been open and honest. I believe you can sometimes get this corporate speak from him, which is, I think, quite Americanized. It's as an American, he's obviously very much into that sort of corporate speak environment where everyone's positive, everyone's sort of, yeah, we'll do this, let's go. And it's a good attitude to have, but there's got to be a sense of realism there. And I believe this interview, he's spoken with that sense of realism. He's still very positive, he's still very forward and ambitious for the club, which is great. But at the same time, I think he's come out and he's accepted that we need to realise where we are in the project, how we're going to move it forward, and what the sort of next steps are, which he's laid out. And he even spoke about the ground and the training ground, saying that that'll come soon. We've heard that before. We really do need action on that now. We've heard words. We need some solid plans. We need to see what the idea is going forward. We need to see that PIF are still invested and that they want to push this club forward. And hopefully we'll see that in the near future. I would really, really hope that it's before Christmas that we'll see something about at least the training ground. Maybe not the stadium, all right, fair enough. The stadium might take a little bit longer, but the training ground is something that I can't see why there's any barriers there. If you've got plans, let us know what they are. And it's another sort of nod to say, look, PIF are still interested, they're still invested. And he said that in his interview. He said the owners are very much interested in the club, that he speaks to them multiple times a day, that they want to know what's going on, that they want to be involved with what's happening at the club and how the club's developing. So it sounds positive. Hopefully it is the truth, and I don't know why you would lie about something like that. So it sounds like PIF are still interested and invested. And I think now when we see movement with the training ground, when we see movement on the stadium, it'll calm the fan base a little. It'll calm me, understanding that, okay, they're here, they're invested, they're taking note of what the fans want and need, and we're seeing a bit of actual action rather than words. So once we get that, that'll be definitely a positive step in the right direction. So moving on to tomorrow, I'm going to do a little match day vlog. So again, stay tuned for that. It'll probably be out on Sunday. Going to take the camera down, going to get some action, show you our day, bit of the journey there, bit of build up to the game from outside the ground, see if we can mingle with some fellow Newcastle fans somewhere in Valencia, grab a beer. So yeah, excited about tomorrow, excited about what we'll see under Geisel. I'm a lot more excited for the game now than I was when Eddie Howe was still in charge last week. What day? Friday? 8 days ago. Wow, that's gone quick. So yeah, it's going to be a great day. Stay tuned. Please like and subscribe to the channel. Like this video. Once I get the next video out, have a watch of that. Give that a like. Share it with your mates. Subscribe, please. It all helps out. I want to try and just build this channel into something nice, little community. Nothing crazy. I'm not fussed about making loads of money off it. I don't care about that. It's just about speaking about football, chatting in the comments with people, sharing opinions, sharing ideas. So yeah, let me know what you think of this video, what you think of my opinions. Let me know yours, and then I'll catch you all after the game tomorrow. Probably a quick short, and then on Sunday, big match day video out. So we'll see you then. Bye bye.